welcome and good evening to everybody listening to this broadcast. I am your host, Robert Pino, and this is the Whole Agenda Radio Show. This evening, we have a wonderful, incredible guest. I've talked to George several times, and he's an incredible man. His name is George Green from Global Insights, and you're going to find out all about him right after the news. Stick with us right now. We have Paul Landris with the news, and we'll be right back with our guest.
Network with tonight's news. Smoking. Britain should introduce a ban on all smoking in cars to protect people from secondhand smoke, a leading doctors' union said yesterday. The British Medical Association, BMA, urged the government to take a bold and courageous step and extend current laws to include a ban on smoking in private vehicles. Britain banned smoking in public places such as pubs and restaurants in 2007, but has avoided legislation for private areas. The UK made a huge step forward in the fight against tobacco by banning smoking in all enclosed public places, but more can still be done, said Vivian Nathanson, the BMA's Director of Professional Activities. We are calling on UK governments to take the bold and courageous step of banning smoking in private vehicles. The evidence for extending the smoke-free legislation is compelling. Children and elderly people are the worst affected, especially because they are often unable to refuse to take a journey in a smoky car, the BMA said. The cited research is showing that levels of dangerous toxin in cars can be 23 times higher than in a typical smoky bar. British Parliament is due on November 25th to debate a bill calling for a smoke ban in private vehicles when children are present. Prime Minister David Cameron, a former smoker, has said he supports the smoking ban in public places, but is nervous about going into what people do inside a vehicle. Others are saying this is just another step to strip away people's privacy, take away what rights that we have left. Brazil. Thousands of flesh-eating piranhas have infested a river beach popular with tourists in western Brazil and have bitten at least 15 unwary swimmers. Officials in the city of Caceres say this is the first time they've had a problem with piranhas at the Davron Beach on the river. People have got to be careful if they're bitten. Got to get out of the water rapidly and not allow the blood to spread, said one firefighter. Pinto, 22, was bitten Sunday. He says, I took a dip in the river, and when I stood up, felt pain in my foot. I looked down and saw that I had lost the tip of my toe. I took off running out of the river, afraid that I would be further attacked because of the blood. I won't be going back in there for a long time, he says. City officials say the beach will remain open because it is an important draw for tourists in Brazil's Pantanal region known for its ecotourism. Everyone knows there are piranhas in the regions and have always taken the necessary precautions. What is different this time is that they've appeared where they've never appeared before. Officials have put up large signs warning swimmers about piranhas, reading in blood-red letters, attention swimmers, area at risk of piranha attacks, danger. Local fisherman Galino Alves says that he throws out a fishing net near the beach. Of late, he catches numerous piranhas. I come here with my kids, and I always see blood on the river banks, he says. The worst is that the attacks are in shallow water next to the bank. Despite making his living off the river, Alves has left no doubt about his feelings for the water or for the beachgoers. He says, what is wrong with these people? Stay at home, read a book, or better yet, go to the movies and watch one of those piranha horror movies. U.S. authorities have uncovered another large tunnel, major drug smuggling ring near the border with Mexico, and have seized 14 tons of marijuana during searches related to the investigation. Officials say the cross-border tunnel was about 400 meters long and connected warehouses in Tijuana, Mexico, and to an industrial park, San Diego, California area. Investigators also say the tunnel, which was discovered Tuesday, was equipped with structural supports, electricity, and a ventilation system. Multi-agency San Diego Tunnel Task Force conducting an investigation. Now, on the other side of the coin, if a person wants to use a tunnel across the border, they should find out what the tunnel is for. 5 people were trapped in another tunnel that went through underneath the U.S.-Mexican border, and they had to be rescued. 4 men and 1 woman became trapped inside a tunnel filled with sewage. San Diego and Chula Vista firefighters worked for about 45 minutes to dig out the trapped victims, them out one by one. Then they hosed down each person because of their exposure. All the victims were healthy without any physical injuries, according to Border Patrol. Border Patrol then, a robot was sent into the hole to investigate, but it also got stuck in the sewage, according to the officials. Acapulco. The economy is bad, and necessities are so expensive. Forget about any extras or luxury items these days when it concerns most. That is, unless you're in prison. Authorities made a surprise search at a prison in Acapulco, which resulted in the discovery of 2 peacocks, 100 fighting cocks, 2 30-gallon sacks filled with marijuana, and 19 prostitutes. Police in the Mexico resort city also found dozens of televisions in there, bottles of high-priced alcohol, gourmet foods, and culinary knives. Arturo Martinez, the Guerrero State spokesperson, said federal and state police did not say how the women, birds, or other banned objects got into the prison, but he did assure everyone law enforcement was not involved in it. And then finally, today's proverb from Mr. Hadley. Before you criticize someone, you should walk a mile in their shoes. That way, when you criticize them, you're a mile away from them, and you have their shoes. Well, that's it for me tonight. This has been Paul Landers for the Whole Agenda Radio Show. Robert will be right up to tonight's special guest. Thank you, and good night.
And welcome back, everyone. This is the Whole Agenda Radio Show. I'm your host, Robert Pepino. And like I said, we have an incredible guest coming up right now, actually. His name is George Green of Global Insights, a former investment banker, registered financial principal with the NASD, and a broker-dealer. Securities underwriter, real estate developer, insurance broker, and publisher. A frequent guest on radio and TV shows, he is the publisher of Handbook for the New Paradigm, written by ETs. George, thank you so much for being on this broadcast. It's a pleasure having you here.
Thank you for having me this evening.
Well, it's always a pleasure having you, and boy, have we seen incredible transformations take place within the last 3-4 months since we last spoke.
It's all coming together, and most people, fortunately, I think your listeners are pretty much up to speed. It's the 100th monkey principle. It's as the information goes, everybody starts talking, and they can start putting together some of the pieces of the puzzle. And so when they get the propaganda machine going, like they have right now in all directions, then most people can start to put the pieces together, Robert, as you know. But as I've said before in the previous programs, you got to watch what's going on in the Middle East and what's happening. Like today, when Obama said that we're going to put more military troops or 1,200 Marines down in Australia, and they said not to be worried about China. And meanwhile, China is all getting set up on this thing because, like I mentioned before, when I was in Beijing, they said it's 5,000 years. It's their turn to run the world.
And
so we got to watch the program.
George.
Pardon?
I said it sure looks like it's heading that way, doesn't it?
Well, you got to watch the Middle East too, because you have Syria acting up today. Tripoli is in trouble. They don't really have a leadership over there right now. I talked to a military a captain that was on a leave, and him and his troop were going back over. They said to get prepared for to go in with our military. That's what they were told, that they're going to go back into about 3 or 4 different countries and just take them over. And that's basically what we've been doing. If that does, and they're right, and then with Israel talking about going after Iran, which is a laugh, but that's all part of the plan, as you know, is to get Israel going. When the bomb drops in Israel, and when the bomb hits Israel, because that's all planned, all bets are off. That begins World War III. As you know, China and Russia have made deals, so Russia's providing all the petroleum products that they need over in China. And you know today that the price of oil here has gone up over, the crude's over $1 a barrel now. I mean, over $100 a barrel. Right. So what it amounts to is all of our prices are going to be going up as if they haven't been. Meanwhile, more and more people are being laid off across the United States.
Yeah, and bankruptcy states are bankrupting all over the place. In Alabama, just the other day, announced one of the largest city bankruptcies of all time, $4.9 billion, I believe.
That's correct. Well, look at Detroit. They're making a big deal about that right now, too. And Los Angeles has appeared also today. But your listeners, what you have to do is look at this as a huge play, and the best time to be in is to be in the observer mode of this play going on. Now that everybody's recognizing it, and your listeners, if it's a huge play, it's being manipulated by a few players, and they're out showing you the players right now. I mean, you look at what's going on in Washington D.C. What I'm suggesting that each one of our congressmen put on those new, like the baseball shirts, and list on who's all their corporate sponsors, because that's basically what's going on at this minute.
Bought and paid for, absolutely, 100%. George, also I wanted to ask you before we get, because there's a lot of new listeners, and just to touch on, how this all started for you. But just before we get into that, the whole debacle now, what's going on in Europe, Berlusconi resigning, Papandreou's turning tailcoat basically on the G20 meeting. I mean, this is all a stage. You're 100% right, and we're watching it unfold. And I think as soon as they collapse, Europe, we will fall right behind it.
Well, again, it's who keeping score and what's really going on. I just come back from, I was doing a lecture in London, and I went up to 4 other countries over there, and let me give you an idea. If you go into McDonald's, you can buy a McDonald's right now, and you have to pay for it in euros, of course, or in pounds in England, but the equivalent price for a McDonald's hamburger is between $15 and $18, and they charge you extra for ketchup. Just to give you an idea. Well, and then, of course, they're all losing their jobs. I talked to people in all the states. A couple of them, like in Belgium, they're okay, because at the northern end of the states up there are fairly industrialized, and they have their own need, and they have plenty of oil. So the rest of the southern part is all coming apart at the seams, as you're reading about France and Italy and Spain, all of those things. I was in Portugal, and they have the same thing going on. So they just don't release all that, but the people over there, they're out in the streets. And you're also getting the people out in the streets here now. They're saying they're going to go after the bankers and after the corporate heads in New York. But all of this is a big game. The Gumber, they should have known this when Obama came in and rescued all of the banks anyway in the first place, and the stock market. This whole thing is a can of worms. All of your listeners better get out of the stock market yesterday. And frankly, most of them are, because the trading is all done by pension funds and the mutual funds that are taking the money that they have, and the only place they're really investing this stuff right now is in the stock market. The Federal Reserve is buying all of the bonds, so when the government's saying they're out, finding somebody else buying bonds, it isn't just the Federal Reserve is adding more debt to us. So that's what's going on.
Right,
So
they're
we're looking at
monetizing the debt. I mean, it should be more than obvious to most people what these terrorists have done, and they're nothing more than that in my eyes. A bunch of terrorists. They're the ones who create the terror, and they're the ones who promote the propaganda, and they're the ones who present you with the tyrannical solutions, without a question.
Well, and I'm also getting word today that there are several bankers that are closing down and they're leaving the country right now in the United States, different parts on the East Coast. And I said, just keep watching that happen because it's going to be like a flood. The trouble is, it's like for your listeners, what's the definition of money and what are we going to do to replace it? I've shared the information before when I was brought in front of the state in order to get licensed for selling money, because at that point, then I got the accounting books for the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank in order to find out what the definition was. And frankly, they don't have one. So if we don't have one, and everybody's playing this monopoly game with what you think is money, and then, as you know, they're showing on the Internet right now the new colored money that they had ready to go back the first of the year, well, April 30th. And they're going right now because when I talked to the banker the other day, they're making it so if you draw out more than $2,500 in cash, you have to fill out reports. Like, the IRS and the feds are keeping track of where the cash is. But 94% of all transactions today are done digitized. In other words, by credit cards or checks or, as you get laid off today, you get a debit card. You don't get an unemployment check. And that's what they're getting everybody to, so it's all the micro thing. Well, meanwhile, the dollar, when I was over in Europe, the only place you could use the dollar, frankly, was in Switzerland. The rest of the countries will not take the dollar, so you have to buy the euro here or the pound. Not that they don't have them in the airports or the exchange, but they charge you large fees. And when they get over there to see what's going on, you only see the tip of the iceberg on our news networks because they're all controlled too. It's all a big show.
Right. There's no question about it. And I remember when I was in Italy, and this was back in 2009, they were charging a huge interest rate just for me drawing my own money out of my own bank account.
Well, they're doing that here, believe it or not. I deposited a bunch of cash the other day, and they're charging you a fee. For anything over $5,000 in cash, there's a fee per $100. And you'll look on the new deposit slips, it'll tell you that. So if you deposit cash into the bank, not only do they have to fill out a form if you get too much, but they're also charging you a fee for taking the cash. And as I talked to the bank manager, he said that the requirement says we don't have much cash around anymore, and we have to then take the cash at the end of the day and put it into private vaults. This is exactly what's going on in many Latin American countries, too.
George, are they surrounding Iran? Is this the plan? Is this what we're seeing? This ploy with what's happened in all the Middle Eastern countries and now with Libya?
Well, you have to understand take Syria and Iran; they're almost together, and you're getting a lot of the religious, the Islam nation all together. So when you look at what's going on in Libya and the rest of them. In that case, they're all getting ready and they know what the enemy is. And what I found out, it's the old saying, is if you leave this country, you better ask your travel agent which country hates us the least. And that's what's going on. It's not the country. The people themselves are out there are very concerned because they're well aware of the Mickey Mouse money deal here. And you're finding out since the dollar was the king using for all the oil. Remember that it was a law that you had to use the oil for trading? Well, now they're starting to change, and China and India have said now they're not using it, but they're going to use their own currencies. So that's a good play. In other words, they're taken out to get rid of the dollar. Well, they're going to dump it all every place. Now, the Bank of International Settlements, which keeps track of all the transfers between all the countries, is also urging everything to go to the new world debit card. Now, when I was in Europe, you can't use a MasterCard and Visa card that you may have right now unless it has the new chip in it. And right now, banks in the United States will ask you, if you ask for a MasterCard or Visa and you're leaving this country, ask the bank to issue one with a chip in it. Otherwise, you won't be able to even debit your account. And then they're charging fees on top of the normal fee you have. You have a fee on top of that for the exchange of money in other countries.
And meanwhile, everybody's going broke in this country. They're losing their jobs. Businesses are being destroyed. the Fed is monetizing the debt, so it's ripe for collapse, and this is what we're waiting on right now, and this is what we're looking for. But the question is, when this collapse comes in, who's going to be in charge of it, and are they going to issue a world monetary system? This is the end-all be-it question right now.
Well, I got a copy of, and I have it, the man that's producing, or the company that's making the new world debit card, and it's a world debit card, is in Salt Lake City, and I flew with them. And that is a plan. Let me explain how the sequences of events are going to happen. You will probably know there's been many earthquakes that's been starting in the United States, and they haven't been reporting them all. I mean, there was a 4.3, for instance, in Missoula, Montana, just a couple of days ago. Some more out in California. But what we're going to have is a lot of changes. There's another one that was in Denver, Colorado, and also on the other side. We're going to get a lot more earth shift, and then the weather changes are going to be drastically. It will give Obama a chance to call a national emergency. By doing that, they suspend everything. There will be no election. There won't be anything else going on out there. It immediately comes under FEMA, that Federal Emergency Management Agency's control, for 30 days. Now, whoever's the head of FEMA will be running our country. In other words, it's already funded and set up that way. The FEMA has set up over 1,100 camps across the United States, too.
I'm sorry, George, I didn't mean to cut you off. Was that what this ESA test was all about?
But part of it, yes. In other words, to get everything going. They're also prepared to shut down all the Internet, which automatically shuts down almost everybody. And if they do set off a couple of the EMF weapons that they have, they'll wipe out anything with a chip in it. So it's an interesting game. We could be brought back to the zero gaze. But remember, all these prisoner of war camps, or the FEMA camps, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, and there's 1,100 of them around the country right now. What they're going to do is ask everybody to go to the post office. That's already law. That's under the things that they got set up, this Homeland Security thing. You'll have to go to the post office to register. Now, the post office is understaffed. They're understaffed right now. They don't have enough money coming in, and yet they have to pay out back to the government on different ways for so-called guarantees. And this whole thing is coming apart at that point. But anyway, you're going to register at your post office. You're going to get the new digital card, which will be it'll act like a debit card for whatever money that you get, like i.e. Social Security, retirement funds, or whatever, because they're all gone. People think they have a retirement account. Go check it out. It's not there. The money's all into the stocks, which have all been blown out of sight, and all the executives of the companies that own the big ones know what's going on, so they pay themselves huge salaries. There's no dividends going down to the stockholder. And if you got a piece of stock, be like the end of World War II, what are you going to use it for? Toilet paper or to start a fire to keep your house going? Because nobody else is going to buy it.
Yeah, Weimar Republic, without a question.
That's exactly where we're at. Well, then the next step under FEMA for 30 days, we're going to be run under the Federal Emergency Management. In other words, we won't have a government. It'll all be just basically a dictatorship from him. But it's already mandatory at the end of 30 days. Then it's capitulated to the head of the UN. All of a sudden, you understand what's going on? And this is already law. You have to look it up.
No, without a question, I understand thoroughly what's happening.
So the smart man is doing like your listeners are saying. You get some gold and silver. Probably should look at getting into junk silver and stuff, and right now is an ideal time you can buy the junk silver for about the price of spot. The problem with the silver market is that the players in New York, which primarily run the markets, on the option trading, right now for every ounce of silver that's sitting in the country right now, that is, people have, there's 1,000 ounces traded on the option market. So there isn't anything behind it. So the question is, if you have an option to buy it, you ask if everybody demanded to get payment, it runs silver up to $200 an ounce. It's the only metal that's used in a lot of different places. There's an ounce of silver, for instance, in about every computer. They use silver in medical professions, as you know. You can have colloidal silver. They put it on bandages. They do a lot of stuff with it. It's highly transmitted, but it also destroys itself. about 90%, a little over 90% of all the silver that's ever been mined is back in the ground. That's all thrown back in the dumps of stuff because we're a throwaway society. So what amounts to, silver is a better buy. Now gold, most of your listeners aren't going to be buying that. Gold, it's going to cost you around $1,800 an ounce to buy an ounce. $1,800. Now how many people's going to trade it? I'm not saying don't buy it. But right now, when you leave, like if you leave from out of Miami or out of Houston, all of a sudden you got people searching their luggage to find out how many pieces of gold you have. And that's all part of this new stuff. They're only going to allow you to take a few because of that $10,000 rule. So if you got, 6 pieces of gold, for instance, today, you're pretty close to getting $10,000.
Wow.
And then when you get to the foreign countries, not that they won't take it, you have to find people to do it, but they got the same problems. Because of the dollar, which has ruined all the rest of them, HSBC, which is the second largest bank in Mexico, is now any American that has bank accounts down there that has not, quote, traded the information so the Internal Revenue Service knows it's there, they're closing the account and sending the money back. They're doing the same thing in Canada. At first, I was telling people to save, to preserve your money, you go put your money in Scotiabank in Canada, but you start looking at the banking system, it comes right back to the dollar system or the Federal Reserve, because they're all backing each other with this combination of all these guys putting out the money or putting out the derivative accounts. Now, the derivative accounts, the word derived off of or derivative is a pooled group of some kind of income or potential income that the brokers put together, and then they sold it to foreign governments and foreign banks as an asset. There's nothing behind them. 8 years ago, I was on Coast to Coast Radio. I defied any accountant to call in to tell me how they could determine the value of a derivative. So, like you say, it's a game right in front of you.
Yeah, it's a total game, and there's so many questions here, George. And we kind of jumped right off into the first segment of the show. I want you to give everybody your background a little bit, where you came from, so they understand what your role is in this and was in this, so people understand where you came from. But the bottom line is that this nation is completely falling apart. The game is over. The paper monetary system that they created is now getting ready to implode. Of course, not just this country, but of course Europe. So it goes hand in hand. One goes down, the other goes down with it, and that is their overall plan to take down the total system in order to bring in their new world order and their one world monopoly fake monetary system with total tyranny. But we're going to a break right now, George. Everybody stick with us. This is the Whole Agenda Radio Show. I'm your host, Robert Pepino. We'll be right back after this break.
Fittest. In any and all situations, survival is your number one priority. That requires being tough and thinking smart. And the folks at Freeze Dry Guy are going to help you do just that. They have the long-range patrol ration entrees, what they call the Brick Pack. When you're in survival mode, it is absolutely the best item for your survival pack or bug-out bag. You can go farther, faster, and carry more food with the LRP cold weather ration entrees. Not only do these long-lasting, durable entrees help sustain you or your family through the harshest environment or situation, they are by far the most delicious of their kind. No contest. With a variety of tasty entrees, you can't beat the LRP Brick Packs. Let Freeze Dry Guy help you in your survival situations. Go to freezedryguy.com. That's freezedryguy.com. Or call 866-404-3663. That's 866-404-FOOD.
Hi, I'm Ronnie McMullen, spokesman for Life Change Tea. I want to share my enthusiasm for Life Change Tea because this product really works. I have spent many hours listening to hundreds of testimonies from people like you, having their health be transformed because of this amazing product. When your mind makes the decision for a health change, Life Change Tea will help you to achieve your health goal. Reduce your weight, diminish bad bacteria, receive more energy, cleanse your skin, eliminate toxins, give health and energy to your vital organs. If you want to make a change in your health plan, call now. Call right now. 928 928-308-0408. Again, 928-308-0408. Or you can log on to the website at getthet.com. That's getthet.com. Make up your mind and choose the right path. That's getthet.com.
Regardless of the dollar price involved, 1 ounce of gold would purchase a good quality man's suit at the conclusion of the Revolutionary War, the Civil War, the presidency of Franklin Roosevelt, and today. You may not be in the market for a new suit, but you don't know what the future may bring. And gold is the one financial constant the world has ever known. It can always provide you with your basic needs. Whether you're looking for junk silver, old silver dollar rolls, gold bullion, or fractional tradable gold pieces, Kettle Moraine is your full-service representative with over 50 years of knowledge and personal experience. Visit FlyingEagleGold.com or call us at 623-327-1778 today for competitive prices on all your gold or silver needs. If you're looking for real financial insurance, call Kettle Moraine today at 623-327-1778. That's Kettle Moraine, 623-327-1778.
The Micro Effect. The Micro Effect.
And welcome back, everyone. This is the Whole Agenda Radio Show. I'm your host, Robert Papino, and you've been listening to George Green, author of Global Insight and owner of the website nohoax.com. And George was a global elite insider, knows all the plans of how they were going to manipulate the system and what you're seeing unfold in front of you. And for everyone who are not aware of who George Green is, George, I'd like to get just a little bit of background, if we can, this segment of the show.
Sure. How I got into it, my dad was in the meat business. He was the third largest meat packer in Denver. And when I was down there in the meat business, when we go out and buy a herd of cattle, for instance, and we go in and we have to process the beef, well, the Packers and Stockyards Act says when we buy the cow from the farmer, we got to pay him for 24 hours. Well, we would turn around and process the meat, and we would send the meat or bill the meat to the government because we were selling it to them. The various, at that time, was the school lunch programs. Well, meanwhile, that put us in tremendous receivables, like 90 days, and we were dealing with millions of dollars of receivables of government paper. And my job was to go down to the bank. So I got on a very first-name basis with every bank in Denver, where we were at. And I would go down and I would pledge my government receivables, which was blue-chip paper. It was like, a bond. And in doing that at the bank, every bank, I would take the loan limit. They could only loan me a certain amount of money, and that's what they had the law to do that. Well, I became friends with some of the presidents of the bank. And they said, look, if you can find somebody that will put some more money into our bank, well, we'll be able to loan you some more. Well, I got a complete education on how that works, and I'll explain that to your listeners. Let's say that I had $1 million, or the bank wanted me to put $1 million into the bank. By doing that, at that time they were paying people 5%, so they would get $50,000 in interest on the money for a year in the bank. But the bank automatically, because it's a franchise deal, it has nothing to do with the government, what they would do, they could loan out 10 times the amount of deposit that we had. So if I put in $1 million, they loaned out at $10 million. I'll give you an illustration. If they paid 5% interest to you, they paid out $50,000 for the use of the money, but they could put out that $10 million, and we'll just use a rough number at 8% or 10% if you want to. At 10%, what was 10% interest on $10 million? $1 million. $1 million they can make on $1 million deposit. You understand? So then all they had to do then was to go put the money to work where they felt it was, whatever they wanted to do with it. So what they did was put a lot of it into FHA programs. Are we looking at it? In other words, federal, the home loans for everybody. And by doing that, they could continue the game. And by taking a whole bunch of the home loans that they had, they would pool them together like 100 different house receivables, and then that would be called a derivative, and they would sell the receivables, in other words, that derivative program, through the stock market, which told other people that it was worth money. Now, again, I don't know how you determine the value of those things because they're always changing. People don't make payments on time, and you know how this is. Anyway, what happened is then it became all upside down, and that was part of the reason why this whole country, now it was good for the guy to come out because you could go buy a house, for, as you know, for $1 down. And the rest of it will be financed, i.e., by government paper, which is then sold to foreign governments, and that's what they're using as an asset also. Well, meanwhile, as I'm learning all this game, I went to them, and at that time, they were always looking for people and other ones to go put their deposit in their bank. And you probably have that going on right now. You don't come down to our bank. At that time, they would pay you, toasters, or in fact, they give you a color TV if you put in so much money in the bank. Well, I told them, instead of doing all that, why don't you pay me an advertising fee? So they did. That advertising fee was 3%. That was the agreement that I had. They would pay me 3%, so if I put in $1 million, I get $30,000. Now, how do I get that done? I would call you, Robert, or all your listeners, and say, contact me, and I would write out a check for you for 2% of the amount I wanted you to put into a bank in advance. So what you had to do, like $10,000, the bank would be paying you 5% interest. You'd have to wait for the year to get over. But I'd write you out a check on that basis, a couple $100. Well, you got that free. I had no connection with the bank other than directing the money into it. But at the end of 1 year, let's look at the bank situation. At the end of 1 year, they got the $1 million. The obligation is back to, quote, all my investors, but they've loaned out this $10 million on it. What would happen if they didn't pay me again so I could pay you to leave it in that bank? I would move the money out of the bank into another bank. So what would happen is then the feds either had to take over the bank or the Federal Reserve advanced the money. Well, the first thing that happened then they notified the feds that I had too much power. Well, I had nothing to do with the bank. I was just, providing funds. The second thing is they said I had to get licensed. So I went to the state, called me, and they said, you're selling money. And I said, great, well, give me a license. I love exams. My background, I studied law and business at University of Illinois. I studied engineering at Colorado School of Mines, and I went to a few other colleges in just business general. So I pretty much understand what was going on. So I'm sitting with the state, and I said, well, give me a license. I'm, qualified to do anything. And they said, well, we don't know what to do. We've never given a license to sell money before. I said, well, let's find out what you're gonna do about it. And I said, I'll tell you, we'll make it easy. First thing I have to do is get a definition of what money is. So what I did is notified my friends in Washington, and they sent me a copy of the accounting book for the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund. I took a look into the book, and I have it. And your listeners can get a copy of the one page just by contacting my office. Call 800-729-4131. Or go to my website, nohoax.com, and put your name on so we get your list and say you want a copy of it. And I'll send you out a copy what they have of definition of money. And frankly, they don't have one. If you read all the instructions, they admit they don't know because it's too variable. They don't know what it is. So anyway, I decided with the state of Colorado, we're discussing, I said, we'll make this easy. Let's consider money some kind of a security. You would kind of agree with that, wouldn't you, Robert?
Sure, of course.
So, well, I said if it's some kind of security, then what you want to do is then just let me take a securities license. And they said, well, what you're doing, you have to become a principal. And I said, well, what's that? And they said, well, it's a real tough exam, but in order to do what you're doing, they're an underwriter of securities, basically. And I said, well, bring it on. I love exams. So anyway, before that, they gave me all the books and the study for looking at it. And I did take the exam. It's all written, and half of it is basically accounting, and the other half of it is all law. and it took me all day, but I passed. I became a registered financial principal with the NASD. I joined the NASD to do that. But by reading all the documents, all of a sudden I understand the brokerage business is a license to steal. Because once you issue a stock, for instance, I'll use that. If you wanted $1 million, I'd go issue 1 million shares, for instance, and I'd get all my broker buddies. They're always looking for new stocks. They call them, initial public offerings. So everybody's out here selling this piece of paper, and everybody's creating artificially the inflation. In other words, you're going to buy this thing, this company's going to go up. And so all of a sudden $1 stock becomes $5, and there's still nothing behind it, right? Well, what happened is the stock market started to drop like it's been dropping right now. As you know, a lot of stocks have been going down or going away, as a matter of fact. Well, what happened, it went down about 20% in one day, and a strange thing happened. The Federal Reserve sent a letter directly to me the next day when the market dropped, said that they would loan me all the money to maintain the market. Now, normally, let's say I have $1 million outstanding and somebody wants to dump, $300,000 in stocks. Well, you have to have somebody standing by the stock to buy the stocks. Well, that's the reason why you have so many brokerage firms. They'll all find a place to find it, or the stock becomes basically worthless. But when I got this letter from the feds there directly, I said, there's something wrong with this picture. And so I notified my other buddies who were also doing underwriting. And I said, did you get the letter? And they said, yeah. And I said, I can't fight myself. I can't sustain a market that's being rigged by the feds themselves. So I shut my firm down. And the next day, or the next week, the Federal Reserve put its own, they have 8 members on the floor of the stock exchange called the Plunge Committee. You probably heard about it. Called the Plunge Protection Racket. Yeah, well, that's how they were put on there so they could maintain the market. So what we have is people, no matter what they're saying on the market, most of the market right now that's being traded is all being done by the institutions. Very little is done by like your listeners. I think your listeners are smart enough not to get into it. Most of the market is built on greed, but they've also sold the market on a way of, quote, retirement funds and all this thing. So everybody that puts their money into a retirement account, because you could write off the investment right away, you did it. In other words, you don't have to pay taxes on it. So you put it in and say, this is from my savings for the future, and sometime you're going to, have it. But where did they put the money? Right in the market, and that's what's setting up here now, and it's been blown up out of sight. So the stocks themselves are worthless, which means I don't know, frankly, a retirement fund in the United States that has any value left of it, any kind. 100% of the Social Security money is put into the general fund. You're aware of that. And so is what's going on. It's either being manipulated by the Federal Reserve themselves, and they've been doing all this changing on with the game. So people's money, and they're looking at it, remember, it's just a big monopoly game. Well, then, because I became so powerful, I had so many people with the money. Of course, the feds then sent a letter to every bank in the United States not to do business with me, so I moved it all into the savings and loans because they were still operating. Then I got involved with them real heavy. I was borrowing $100 million, one of my other projects by myself, to build a real estate deal, because the real estate I could get a predictable return by building, office buildings and motels and that kind of stuff, where I could calculate a return that would cover the debt service that I wanted to do. So I ended up building in 22 states. I became not only a builder, but I was a real estate developer, a broker dealer. I actually bought a golf course one day, and I gave it to the city in conjunction with, they would annex the whole place, all the property I had, and allow me to build this $100 million project. And then I gave them that as a city golf course. But these are all games that you play with the city, the politicians, and they think they're doing something. And it's gone all the way down to the little cities. They've all been corrupted. And it's all by greed or money or power. Well, Kissinger said the absolute aphrodisiac is power. Anyway, I became licensed as a broker-dealer. I was a broker in real estate. I was a member of all of, the games that you could buy, in other words, to get your credentials up there. Now, this is over 20-some years, so I had plenty of time. Well, I finally got up to the very top of the people that are running this country, and one day they asked me to be the finance chairman for the election of the next president of the United States. 2 years before I became president, they just told me he was going to be president. So I'm sitting in this meeting on it, and I'm asking who it was. and it was a different party than I was voting on that. And then I'll never forget Paul Volcker. He walks over, because it was a Democrat that was going to be a president, and I was voting Republican at the time. That's before I found out that they rig all the votes too. I mean, you can vote for your president, but remember, the votes don't count for an individual basis. It's the committee that does it. Anyway, when I got through with that, Volcker said he didn't care what went in. They controlled them both. Well, I knew that, but I had it in spades from them. That made me look at other things. Then I got involved with some of the things that Jimmy Carter put in writing on some. Remember, Jimmy Carter was put into office by the elite up there. He gave away the Panama Canal. They also put in some documents that were very scary, and that was called the Plan 2000. Every congressman, every senator got copies of it. Henry Kissinger says the number one problem we have on the planet is too many people. Now, as you know, this last week they made a big deal about that because on Halloween, well, a couple weeks ago, on the Halloween, the projection was of the planet we have 7 billion people. 7 billion. Now, we're increasing it by 250,000 a day. I'm giving you some covers on some of these things. Right. That's 2.5 million every 10 days. So at the old days when I used to think like that and said, great, I got new housing, new all that, new stuff to build for people, business is going to keep right on going. The problem is, and the earth is taking care of that, we don't have enough resources to cover the people we have right now. So the Plan 2000, which is represented by the Georgia Guidestones, and I'm sure you've read those,
of course,
which calls for a war. It calls for a war to get started in the Middle East, which is to spread the United States. So anyway, I'm sitting in meetings with the people. You're asking me about background. I'm sitting with the meetings that are planning, with people that are planning on doing this and how they're going to plan on setting these things up. And when they asked me 10 years ago to build an enemy prisoner of war camp, it says enemy prisoner of war camp, in downtown Las Vegas, I said, wait a minute, people around the world have to know what the heck's going on. And the American people are so controlled and manipulated, the only news that they can get is like from your station on the Internet, and even that's being manipulated in some way. So I just say, everybody discern what I have to say, go research it for yourself. My name's George Green. Just Google me. You can see some of my, that I've been all over the place. I lecture everywhere trying to wake people up, but they're just asleep right now because they're going to find out once they get the whole picture, there's not a lot they can do but other than take care of their own family right now. And that's what you got to be doing.
Well, George, you're absolutely right. There's no question about it. We all have to take care of our own. And, I commend you, many people like you, for what you do to put yourself out on the line and on a limb because, these people don't take kindly to you exposing all their interior plans because a lot of the movement that's taking place now, it's happened because of yourself who have come out and exposed the plans of these elites in order to bring in this depopulation and this whole World War III scenario. But here's a question for you, George. What this Occupy Wall Street movement that's taking place right now, do you think this is a kink in the chain of what they're trying to create?
No, they laugh at that. Actually, when I was back in Washington, when you got the rabble in the street, that's just rabble in the streets. But the trouble is, these are growing all over the place because everybody is waking up to something, and they think, okay, I'm going to go after the stockbrokers. The stockbrokers are out there just trying to make a living, and they're doing it by the greed of the people out here. That's all. It's not a savings account. It's just greed. I'm going to get rich buying stocks. That's all it is. You have better gambling by going to most of the casinos, frankly. And it's like my brother was the manager of the Golden Nugget. He said, look, we don't build tall buildings selling hot dogs. So you have to understand that. And the other avenue that we found out of the gambling is one way, and like Las Vegas, they estimate between 8 to 10% of the people that attend there are addicted to gambling. I mean, it's like watching the football on the weekend, right? How many people gamble doing that?
Right.
The whole thing is so manipulated. How do people look back and stand back and say, what's going on? What can I do to protect myself? And I just tell people the first game is the education, to find out all of the things that you possibly can, share with your neighbors, and they're not going to listen to you because they run down to the local church because Jesus is going to come save them. And that was another lie that they set up too. my suggestion is support all your advertisers that are helping keeping your program going best they can. I'm willing to, my website, nohoax.com, I have a lot of stuff on there that you can look at, and I'm trying to look at places for people to go because when the bankers are leaving the country, which they are, and you're going to see New York, well, New York's going to be vaporized. The whole East Coast is going to go.
George, do you think... George, I was going to say, yeah, it's going to be vaporized. Is it going to be vaporized monetarily? Is it going to be vaporized physically? Look what's going on with the Canary Islands. It's a El Hierro a volcano. They're saying that this thing is going to get ready to split and drop off into the ocean, which could inundate most of the East Coast. I mean, there's so many scenarios here.
Well, the Canaries, of course, are off, down off the African coast, south of Spain there. And when you get down to there, that's affecting everything. But the truth is, the Soviets have 3 nuclear submarines on the East Coast and 3 on the West Coast. They have the stealth technology, so we can't even see them. They can go 80 miles an hour underneath the water, 80 miles an hour. To give you an idea of their size, they're 2 football fields in length and 5 stories tall. And their targets are all the major cities on both the East and the West Coast. So they're just waiting for something to go on. Now, you have to remember, when we hit Iraq, Soviets were running 20% of the oil fields over, the Ramallah oil field, for instance, in Iraq. The Soviets and China are helping Iran right now. Iran has 65 million people. They have just the same kind of technology as we are. It's the only country in the world right now that does not have any connection with the dollar because of all of the things that are set up. Syria is having all of the games that are going on today, which is right next door, and they're going to probably unite with Iran. So is the same thing going to happen in Tripoli. They're all ganging up there right now. Now, this was all planned. The Plan 2000 was to get a war started in the Middle East in the year 2000. Well, they were bombing the hell out of them. And who was doing that? It was CIA plan. I mean, George Bush Sr. was the head of the CIA. CIA is crooks in action. They're all professional liars. I do not know a CIA guy that doesn't go learn how to become a liar. And so, you don't know what is right or wrong. And I used to run with them. In fact, I'm coming out with, I have a couple of books, Defrauding America, which is up on our website. Well, we have another one coming out in January, and it's called Operation Red Rock. And the author of that is a CIA that was involved with laundering all the drug money because they were bringing in all the drugs here. And they know how to launder the money by helping society and going. But it names all the players and everything else, and you can see whole cities that were built on CIA drug money.
Well, and that's without a question. I mean, look what took place with Oliver North, Rex 84, the CIA drug smuggling. This was back in the late 80s.
Sure, yeah, sure. Ollie was in that at that time. They were bringing up that what they were doing down there with, as you said, the guns and everything else that was happening. But, it was Poindexter, Casey, all the rest of them. I mean, you can get names and stuff, but then to put together the details, we've got all kinds of facts and stuff. But now, who controls the courts? They control that too. You get sitting out here like myself. Yeah, we've got threats, and they come back after me to try to sink me. And so I lost millions, but I had all the adult toys. I had, a couple yachts in the Caribbean and 5 airplanes. I did all that stuff. But that was, young and foolish, so to speak. But if I wanted to be one of them, in other words, run up to the top, I just couldn't do that. Yeah, but I had the attitude at one point, if you weren't smart enough to get up to where we were, you deserve what you got. That's what I thought. But then when they started explaining to me about the population reduction and anybody over age 44 is going to be eliminated unless you're one of the chosen ones, or have a talent that they can use. And I looked at age 44, my God. That's half of the population of the United States is over 50 right now. You realize that?
Absolutely.
You realize 1 out of 3 people work for the government? So if you got 1 out of 3 for the government and they don't want to upset their jobs and the only way they exist is by what? The government borrowing more money. This whole thing is going to come apart.
And we're watching it right now. We're watching it unfold as we speak right now, and that's the crazy part, because and I say this a lot on the show, if only people could wake up to the fact that what's being done to them, they'd realize that, this conspiracy is not as large and as crazy as they all think we are making it out to be. The reality is this is actually happening. But nobody wants to stick their head out of the sand to take a look around them and say, what is going on in this country? And like you said earlier, that, Occupy Wall Street, they're making a little bit of noise, and I'm hoping in my, I guess, naive mind that this thing is going to grow to a one single voice saying, hey, we realize what's happening, and we've had enough of this nonsense, and it's time to end this fictitious monopoly system. And George, if you or I go in our backyard, put up a printing press, start printing money, we're going to prison. We're going to prison forever. They're going to lock us up and throw away the key. But the Federal Fake Reserve and how they were able to enact Congress back in 2013 put this whole scam into play. And you unbeknownst to you, you just kind of fell into this situation. You realized what this was all about at the time it had happened, and you were just simply able to play their game. And I don't find anything wrong with that, but what I do find wrong is how they played and manipulated you once you realized how the game was all being played, and that's the killer part. But, George, we're coming up at a break here, and I want to touch on that on the other side. So everybody stick with us. This is the Whole Agenda Radio Show. I'm your host, Robert Pepino. You are listening to George Green, and we'll be right back after this break.
Survival of the fittest. In any and all situations, survival is your number one priority. That requires being tough and thinking smart. And the folks at Freeze Dry Guy are going to help you do just that. They have the long-range patrol ration entrees, what they call the brick pack. When you're in survival mode, it is absolutely the best item for your survival pack or bug-out bag. You can go farther, faster, and carry more food with the LRP cold weather ration entrees. Not only do these long-lasting, durable entrees help sustain you or your family through the harshest environment or situation, they are by far the most delicious of their kind. No contest. With a variety of tasty entrees, you can't beat the LRP brick packs. Let Freeze Dry Guy help you in your survival situations. Go to freezedryguy.com. That's freezedryguy.com. Or call 866-404-3663. That's 866-404-FOOD.
Hi, I'm Ronnie McMullen, spokesman for Life Change Tea. I want to share my enthusiasm for Life Change Tea because this product really works. I have spent many hours listening to hundreds of testimonies from people like you having their health be transformed because of this amazing product. When your mind makes the decision for a health change, Life Change Tea will help you to achieve your health goal. Reduce your weight, diminish bad bacteria, receive more energy, cleanse your skin, eliminate toxins, give health and energy to your vital organs. If you want to make a change in your health plan, call now. Call right now, 928-308-0408. Again, 928-308-0408. Or you can log on to the website at getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. Make up your mind and choose the right path. That's getthetea.com.
Regardless of the dollar price involved, 1 ounce of gold would purchase a good quality man's suit at the conclusion of the Revolutionary War, the Civil War, the presidency of Franklin Roosevelt, and today. You may not be in the market for a new suit, but you don't know what the future may bring. And gold is the one financial constant the world has ever known. It can always provide you with your basic needs. Whether you're looking for junk silver, old silver dollar rolls, gold bullion, or fractional tradable gold pieces, Kettle Moraine is your full-service representative with over 50 years of knowledge and personal experience. Visit FlyingEagleGold.com or call us at 623-327-1778 today for competitive prices on all your gold or silver needs. If you're looking for real financial insurance, call Kettle Moraine today at 623-327-1778. That's Kettle Moraine, 623-327-1778.
The Micro Effect. The Micro Effect.
and welcome back, everyone. This is the Whole Agenda Radio Show. I'm your host, Robert Pino, and you've been listening to George Green of Global Insights. Basically, George was an insider who was pulled into the high ranks of the elite, the Illuminati, choose what you will to call them, and knew and still knows all their plans, how this was all going to play out. And basically, we're the pawns in their game. And for anybody who'd like to call in, I'm going to go ahead and open phone lines. The number is 1-888-747-1968. And you can go ahead and call in and ask George any question you like. I'm sure he'd be more than happy to answer it. And, George, the reality here is, how can we save ourselves? Like I said, we are pawns in this game. I am very optimistic in the fact that I think the one thing we do have are a multitude of weapons in this country. We are able to defend ourselves. We still have that Second Amendment right. They haven't taken that away from us. Do you think there's any hope or chance for us to basically beat out the game that they've put into place?
Oh, isolated. Do you remember you have that situation you're looking at? Because I have a place in Montana over there. Almost everybody knows what's going on, and they're preparing all that thing. But when you get right back to the top of it, all these groups, we have a lot of them on the East Coast. There's some down. I just talked to people down in Caryville, Texas, up there, the mountain or the hill country. There are groups down there. There's different parts all over. There's getting small groups of people that think a lot, and that's what you have to do. I'd rather have a neighbor that knows something about it. Meanwhile, you can't isolate yourself, because what you do then is you targeted yourself. In other words, the whole group, it's easy to round them up. So you're better off living in a very small town, 100 miles away from any major city. I think the transportation between the places is going to be very serious right now. You won't have fuel, or they're going to limit that. I don't care what number of cars and the stuff that we have. That's all a temporary thing anyway. The other problem is the planet itself is getting ready this next year to start escalating on all these geophysical changes, or whatever modifications you want to call it. We're going to have the earthquakes, the wind. For instance, where I am right now, it's snowing right this minute, and yet in about 3 hours it's supposed to be 50 degrees, and then tomorrow morning it's going to drop down to 20. Then we're going to have heavy blowing snow for the next couple of days, and then who knows what it's going to be, because I'm leaving the country, frankly. I'll be gone for the next month. I'm coming back around the first year, because I've got a lot of people that I want to come down and I've agreed to speak to, in lectures and places, try to get them going while we can. But when the bomb hits Israel, that's my big trigger point, because that's where they want to set everything up. To follow the biblical prophecies, I'm heading south of the equator, Frank. That's the only. I got people that I talked to today. They're heading off to Australia. Even my son's heading that direction. It's kind of interesting, because he's a senior engineer, and these things are happening all over. The people that are in the know are trying to get themselves positioned, because they don't want to be part of what's going to happen on the northern hemisphere. China's got 100 million men army, as you know.
Absolutely,
George. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Do you think the Fukushima disaster that was purposely created? Because I personally believe that they could have did a lot of things to stop it or subside it, and they just let it continue spewing into the atmosphere.
Well, I don't know which way, because I looked at the same thing. Some people, first of all, we had that earthquake. Did they trigger that just to do that? Now, remember, Japan didn't ask for any money. They had plenty of our debt already. Remember, we owed them $1 trillion or so anyway. And so you look at what's happening. Yeah, there are many thousands of people being affected by the radiation. The radiation's coming over here, and it affects everybody. What is happening is it's a long-term effect. So the cancers are going to start growing up, as you're probably aware. Fluoride. I just found out. I was doing a research on fluoride. Even though most of the other countries have ignored it, we still have it here. Fluoride shuts down one of the most important glands in the body. Do you know what that is? The pineal gland.
I was just going to say that.
The pineal gland in the old days, the turn of the century, for instance, everybody talked about the third eye. When people go to church, they meditate or they pray, right? They're hoping to receive information, and that from however you view, the creation or God or however, you used to hope you'd hear information coming from somebody, some other dimension that's watching us. But the pineal gland was a transfer agent of that. It also controls your sleep and everything else. Fluoride atrophies that gland. And so put fluoride in the toothpaste, which is rat poison. You put it in everything else we had, and you start looking at it. That and, for instance, the corn syrup, sugars they're putting in. All these things are affecting our bodies and making us so we don't know what the hell's going on and can't think. And remember, the old game is the old protocols that the protocols of science says get everybody interested in sports and entertainment, and that's what they're doing.
And that's what's remained, because that's what you see. Now, what dominates television nowadays? Entertainment, sports, and Dancing with the Stars, or
exactly.
American Idol, or whatever else. And people are mesmerized by this thing, which I actually never pay attention to begin with. And I stopped watching TV, George. I don't think I've watched any TV at all for an occasional maybe PBS show. For the most part, I do not watch television.
Well, that's most people are on the computer right now, and you go to the news if you can, or like you have a radio program that's run on the computer. And there are some talk show programs out there that try to put the information out, but most of them are all sound bites on a local thing. You can't put information out to the people. So the only you can do is get your neighbors, and they don't want to hear it, because then they have to take responsibility, because they figure somebody in Washington's going to come save them, or someplace else. And like, Robert, you're doing the same thing that I am. You're trying to wake people up to what's going on. You've got guests that are going to come in from whatever various background on it. I've covered the whole gambit. I've traveled around the world. I've been with, I have friends that are presidents of other countries. I've been sitting here with a lot of them. We're discussing the same game and what they're planning on doing in other places in order to offset and watch the United States just dissolve. But meanwhile, it's bringing down the entire world. The only wild cards in the whole picture is what's going to happen with Russia and China right now. Now, like I say, I was in Beijing with the leaders over there, and they told me, their military said it's 5,000 years. It's our turn to run the world. And they also told Obama, they said, you don't know how many nuclear bombs we have. And as you're probably aware, they had one of their nuclear submarines was in Los Angeles, and they sent out one of their missiles. That was a Chinese thing. There was one on the East Coast also. We don't have any idea. They don't release any of the information.
I'm very aware of that too, George. Very, very aware. And they tried to dismiss it as some, U.S. missile test. That's just a bunch of hogwash and a bunch of baloney, according to me, and a lot of other people, by the way.
Well,
and so, I'm sorry, George. I just wanted to bring this up. Okay, the bottom line is that if they do drop the bomb on Israel, okay, and they can coerce enough military force to get involved in this, then yes, then I think that would be the beginning of World War III. But I've heard from a lot of different people that the military are actually waking up and are not going to participate in this worldwide war that they want to create.
Well, actually, this week's Time magazine, you ought to take a read what the military's doing. It's kind of interesting because the people that are the kids are getting out of school, they can't find a job, as you know.
Right.
I mean, my grandson's graduated from college. He's got his degree. Big deal. Can't find a job. So what they're doing is they're going into the military, and they're all programmed the way they want to, and they're doing all. And remember, we're in 110 different countries out here. So we're spread out all over the world, and like I say, what are we doing with these places? I mean, why do we have military in Germany, for instance?
Yeah, dominant occupancy, absolutely.
So what we're doing is indirectly putting out here and feeding the monarchy going on, but these are American kids that are sitting down here. People don't realize that they make a big deal about what's going on and where we're out there because we're the only country that will go out and start dropping bombs on other people. We have never won a war. Name a war that America has won.
You can't name one. You can't.
That's what I'm talking about. So we're involved with all kinds of things, and we're manipulating, but that's mostly run, as my CIA friend said, they manipulate everything to cause the wars, and our troops come in to protect the assets. In other words, they're over there to make sure that we have enough oil. Well, we we have enough, in other words, access to material to keep running our country. The trouble is, our country's not going to buy anything. We don't. The people right now are scared and they're not spending any money. Yeah, there's a few people up here. I mean, technically, in the United States, we've got out of every 100 people that start out in the world of economics at age 25, by the time we get to 65, just to give you an idea, 36 of them are dead already. That's from diseases or whatever. 54 of them are on RFC. They're living on relatives, friends, or charity. That's at age 65. Or 9 out of 10 people are dead or dead broke. Now,
Yeah,
at least 10.
absolutely. We're living
Okay, now at least
paycheck
10
to
more
paycheck.
people. Yeah, well, we got 5 more people that are still working in order to keep going. This is that age. You got 4 people that are pretty much well off, and one's rich. Well, you can put that across the United States, so you got very few rich people, right? I mean, if the old days it was easy to make money, right now you almost have to roll the dice and play it. But what the hell difference does it make today? Because the money's going to be worthless. So the ones that do have it are trying to get it moved into foreign places, and of course I'm working with some attorneys and other people to move money, because you can't move it individually. You'll be stopped by the State Department, so you have to learn how to move and transfer money. And I'm willing to talk to people individually if they just contact my office. If I'm around, I just leave my name and I'll call you, your name, or email me at
right.
on my webmail. I'll be glad to get back to you and we'll discuss on what you can do. But the game is coming apart.
You're absolutely right. George, didn't you say that the U.S. Post Office was actually the best or easiest way to move large sums of cash?
No, the post office is now limiting that too. So you're getting the same thing. You can buy some. You can take cash and go in and buy a money order, but they're limiting that too. So everything's coming into place. If you're going to move large amounts of money, you move it corporation to corporation. But then you got to create a corporation that you can do it without having. Have to make some sense to it, like you're buying materials or whatever you're going to do. But you can do it. And there's the smart man. If you take your time, you got to get a dual passport. Well, it used to be easy to get passports. A little harder right now. In other words, have an American one and another one. And then even buying property in other countries right now, they don't like them. A lot of places, a little harder to buy property. You can always move money. The trouble is, do you want to buy anything in today? I think the whole world's going to melt down on it. Now, there's certain countries and I've been talking to the presidents on it, are putting into motion, so they're going to keep their, quote, their economies going. A lot of the ones in South America, give you an idea, they're all working. I mean, you got, look at Brazil. That's in the top 10 countries in the world for economic. I mean, I'm not saying it doesn't have a lot of problems down there, because they do. I mean, you go to Rio, for instance, and go down there on the beach, you go a block over, and there's tremendous slums, and they're trying to clear that up. But, it's happening all over the planet. Mexico City, 26 million people. Half of them don't have electricity, running water, or sewer. That's today.
Correct.
Yeah, but you see, you're doing the same thing. It's correct. What are we doing about that? Right now, Americans go down there. We're bait for the latest way they make money. What's that? Kidnapping. And they'll kidnap. Of course, they like children, but they'll take adults too. So there's most of the cities. If you're going to go to a place, it's usually to a compound. They'll say, I don't care where you are. They'll put you into a compound where they have guards to protect you.
Well,
but
George,
yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I wanted to, because, truth is definitely stranger than fiction in almost every scenario that I've come upon. But, I wanted to touch on the handbook for the new paradigm. I also want to talk, before we get into that, about the earth changes that are taking place. I mean, it looks like a duality taking place here all at the same time. How much of it is man-made and how much of it is natural, do you think?
Well, you start looking at when man found out all these things, and that was a long time ago. And we had some chances, and we've had a lot of chances since the turn of the last century, around the 1900. In 1900, there's about 2 billion people on the planet. In 1900, and of course here we're at right now we got 7 billion. Now we've gone from 2 billion to 7 billion all over the planet. And according to the ET, we were engineered for 500 million. Of course, that's the goal. The one world order wants to reduce us down to less than that. But remember, we've messed up a lot of the resources. Well, because of the cycle of the planet itself, it's starting, and a lot of this, we've done it, but it's also because we're reaching into a point within the universe where we're going to be hit by a lot of special rays coming up from the stars. In other words, the gamma and ultraviolet rays that are coming out. Because of the nuclear testing we've done, we put out a band of nuclear radiation around the planet. It's about 4 miles thick around the planet, and it's eating holes through the ozone. Now, NASA got tired about, we got so much debris we've been sending up in the midair. The only country that still has the capabilities is Russia, and they're talking about that today. Well, Russia's been, they're about 12 years ahead of us on the space program, but they're also ahead of us on the nuclear program the same way. So we're looking at all these things. Now, nuclear, if we keep sending out, that radiation goes up around the planet. Now, when it's down next to the ground, of course, then it either vaporizes or sets it up. In the history of the planet, we've done this before, the Dead Sea, that's go there. Tugungsta, Siberia, remember when that all happened? That's still radioactive. See, these are all things are happening, or Chernobyl, that's still radioactive. Radiation will destroy the soul energy or disrupts the soul energy, which is in the Bible, and that's a no-no. So that's the thing that you have to look at. If they're going to use that, now they're using biologicals, so that's cheaper to go now. Now, the planet itself is going to start doing a lot of changes because we haven't taken care of the planet. Remember when we had all the forefathers come over here and they got with the Indians, and the Indians say, you got to take care of the planet, and so they would live at a certain place, and when they moved, there was no evidence that they were there. You can't say that about us now. We got too many people, and there's no such thing as, leaving the planet the way it was. We're diverting rivers, we're diverting the wind streams. We have the ability to do all that by our, as you know, our HARP programs. We also have the ability to change the frequencies of a lot of things, and the ability of that, they've learned that basically we are nothing more than walking frequency or, light-controlled hologram. Even plants can think, believe it or not. I mean, what's his name, Tompkins up in Minnesota, found out that plants, when they heard the birds sing in the morning, in the springtime, that was the time to start erupting and blooming and growing and everything. So he developed equipment. They call it the sonic bloom. In other words, they created a frequency that allowed everything to start blooming. They could do it on demand. So we're working with nature in a lot of ways, and meanwhile, most of the people want they go to the big cities so they don't have to take care of everything. The cities contain most of the people that aren't producing anything. They're just consuming. So that is the plan, to get rid of the consuming society, the ones that don't help. So you go out and become a farmer, frankly. That's the best way to be at this time.
Well, I agree with you, but didn't they create that themselves, a consumer-based society?
That's right. That was the whole idea of our whole system, isn't it? Get people to consume things.
But that's my point. If you get people to consume things, then I'm trying to look at this, and I don't know if I'm right on this, but you can correct me if I'm wrong. But if you try and create a consumer-based society, and you have to produce that product for people to consume, and you're using up all the essential resources of the planet, and then all of a sudden, this group of people, this group of individuals say, they've consumed too much and they've expanded too much, so now we have to eliminate them all. I mean, isn't that go right directly back on them because they created this social construct that we all have to live in?
That's again, the law of attraction. What you put out, you're going to get back. In other words, you created it for the greed or whatever it needed to. You may have done it. The farmer grows out and he's making food for himself and everybody else, but he tries to keep his property in balance. And the whole planet right now is out of balance. I mean, everything. There isn't any place that I don't think that, because it was the whole planet's been set up on doing all this, even in China. When I was over there, just unbelievable. You have no idea what 1,400,000,000 people that are all being programmed. They don't have all the stuff that they have everything that we have, but the same thing you're looking at. It's just unbelievable that they're continuing on because most of it's just in a few major cities.
Right. Okay, so their depopulation agenda is definitely well in hand, and it's moving forward.
Oh, they got to
It's
get
more
it going
obvious.
because they're running out of options right now. Watch
Right.
your food prices go up. Aren't they going up pretty fast right now?
Oh, they're
And
going up at extremes, George. I
Well-
mean, 6 months. In 6 months, I've seen things go up as high as 70% or better.
And more is right. And get ready for the next year. It's going to even be even worse because they're going to have all kinds of constraints. The other countries are sitting down. We're not going to do it. But even what has happened in the last 3 weeks with Mexico. Mexico, we had the NAFTA program, the North American Free Trade Agreement that we're all set up, which supposedly was going to allow the Mexicans bring their trucks into the United States, and we were going to go back and forth. Well, didn't happen. Well, 3 weeks ago, Mexico got permission, so now you're going to have the Mexicans bringing up all the fruit and everything else up here to bring it up here, and they can bring it up, and they'll work cheaper than we do. And so what's going to happen? All the truck drivers in the United States are going to be down. Now, most of the freight in the United States is done by trucks. Wayne Anschu's owns Southern Pacific Railroad. He's out of Denver. And I owned a truck line in Denver at the same time. We were talking about it. It was cheaper to piggyback. In other words, take my trailer and put it on top of the train, let it run down the road. Well, that's going to be going, and they're hoping to continue that. That's for products. Meanwhile, how do you get the product to your different places over here within a limited period of time? And what do they do to all of the plants and stuff? They freeze them, they cryogenically set up, or they do all kinds of stuff. Everything's coming in from some other country. We don't make anything anymore.
Yeah, without a question, we don't. We haven't made anything in a long time, and of course that was according to their plan, and it went perfectly because the United States is a corporation; it's not a country.
Well, in a comment that you made a little while ago, there's a conspiracy. It's no conspiracy. They say it out loud. Just nobody wants to listen. In other words, we've got a list of everybody that's been in all meetings. We've got a list of all the stuff in Washington. You know them, but you just don't know what they talk about in behind the closed doors. That's all.
Oh, right. We're not privileged to know that.
Sure. No, you have a private meeting like I used to, of course, I had a house in Aspen, so I got invited to a lot of private meetings up there. But you got, Jackson Hole, Wyoming, when they have the Billionaires Club. Sure, all the billionaires come over for their meetings, so they want to maintain. When you get that much money, they know what's going on. So they're just playing the game, and we're just the minions out in the street. That's all. But it's the world. You have to look at it the same way. If you're in business, everybody is demanding for the lowest price. Look at the success of Walmart.
Right.
It's exactly what's happening. It wipes out the little guy because of the overhead. I mean, I was just going down the little town I'm right now. Within 3 blocks of me, there's 20 buildings that are totally empty right now. Well, you can't sustain it. Yeah, the city can't sustain itself. So what it does, it goes out to try to borrow money, or it's raising more fees on that, and what's happening, then the taxes go up. I was just talking to people down in Houston. A house down there, sure, their houses are cheap in price. Comparatively. In other words, they didn't have the increase. And the reason why they didn't have the increase, their property taxes are unreal. $4,000 or $5,000 a year on a couple $100,000 place. So you can imagine.
Yeah,
those taxes are supposed to be going to maintain things. Well, meanwhile, you got weather coming in. They had over 100 days of over 100-degree temperature and 100% humidity down in Texas.
Yeah, I'm very familiar with that, George, and that was the question I wanted to get to. I almost forgot about it. So the whole 2012 scenario that we're looking at, we're not looking at some sort of cataclysmic event, but we're looking at some serious events coming up in the future.
It's going to escalate, but it's not going to be the end. 2012 was just an artificial date to the guys when they put the Plan 2000 together. They were going to hope and they'd have control and reduction of the population and everything by the year 2012 to follow the biblical prophecies of the Mayan calendar and all that. Well, my sources are saying, next year and this year yet, things are going to be escalating as far as the geophysical things for the next 3 years. I can't tell you much longer than that. They also told me that we are going to be we're not going to stop World War III. And they say it's going to last 3 years and 4 months and there'll be no winners. Well, there's never been a winner before either. But with the technology we have right now, it's going to be very devastating. So, again, get your freeze-dried food like your advertiser is saying. Get your food stored up. Get your canned goods that you can. Try to get away from major cities. Try to get yourself, a lot of people who are trying to protect families, you can't do that. You can do what you can. You have to give them their information, but you got to let them make their own decisions, because it's each one of us right now have actually made a decision at some level what's going to happen.
No question. But, George, do you also think that these FEMA camps are more or less either re-education camps or elimination camps?
Elimination.
Okay.
How can you re-educate the masses? They're already totally tuned in to what they're supposed to be. And since their mind processes have still been, it's like the handbook. We're just talking about that. The handbook for the new paradigm is an instruction manual, but it's like an antivirus device. If you need to clean up your computer because you got a bunch of little, stuff in it that messes it all up, the handbook is for people who will read slowly. And what it does is reprogram your mind itself so you can be part of the quote, a remnant that's going to be left in order to maybe create something new in the future. And that's what this is a little handbook. And it's about, it's a little pocketbook. You can put it in it. And I give that away free. Actually, you can download it on my internet site free, the handbook for the new paradigm. 2 other books, and you can also download those free. And that's at nohoax.com. Just Google my name, George Green, and it'll lead you right back down to the website, and you'll see all kinds of stuff. I'm all over the place.
Yeah, you are, George, and thank God you are, because you're awakening people by the masses. We're all trying to do our part, so this doesn't happen.
Yeah, I got the statistics on my website just to give you an idea, because I'm concerned about it, and other people, are listening on to where does it come from. I get over 1 million hits a month, which is quite a bit, just for, I don't do a lot, as you know. I'm on the radio with you right now. I've been doing a few more lectures, and I've been doing it long enough, and I've been on television, a lot of other guest things, so it helped. But I was really amazed at the number of hits that are going to people, and they're referring it to other people. No, people aren't buying anything because they don't have any money, but at least they're getting information, and I'm trying to get as much as they can. And it's like Amazon right now is almost all their business. They killed the bookstores for getting information, but now they're offering their Kindle program, which is a downloading of all the books. So I'm in the process of making all the books that we have available, or best we can, to put them on Kindle.
Okay,
also.
George, can we hold it? Can we hold it right there? We're coming up on a break, because I want to touch on the handbook for the new paradigm, how that started out for you, and the ET message, and I also want to talk about the ground crew. So everybody stick with us. This is the Whole Agenda Radio Show. I'm your host, Robert Pepino. You're listening to George Green. We'll be right back after this break.
Survival of the fittest. In any and all situations, survival is your number 1 priority. That requires being tough and thinking smart. And the folks at Freeze Dry Guy are going to help you do just that. They have the long-range patrol ration entrees, what they call the brick pack. When you're in survival mode, it is absolutely the best item for your survival pack or bug-out bag. You can go farther, faster, and carry more food with the LRP cold weather ration entrees. Not only do these long-lasting, durable entrees help sustain you or your family through the harshest environment or situation, they are by far the most delicious of their kind. No contest. With a variety of tasty entrees, you can't beat the LRP brick packs. Let Freeze Dry Guy help you in your survival situations. Go to freezedryguy.com. That's freezedryguy.com. Or call 866-404-3663. That's 866-404-FOOD.
Hi, I'm Ronnie McMullen, spokesman for Life Change Tea. I want to share my enthusiasm for Life Change Tea, because this product really works. I have spent many hours listening to hundreds of testimonies from people like you having their health be transformed because of this amazing product. When your mind makes the decision for a health change, Life Change Tea will help you to achieve your health. Reduce your weight, diminish bad bacteria, Receive more energy. Cleanse your skin. Eliminate toxins. Give health and energy to your vital organs. If you want to make a change in your health plan, call now. Call right now. 928-308-0408. Again, 928-308-0408. Or you can log on to the website at getthet.com. That's getthet.com. Make up your mind and choose the right path. That's getthet.com.
Regardless of the dollar price involved, 1 ounce of gold would purchase a good quality man's suit at the conclusion of the Revolutionary War, the Civil War, the presidency of Franklin Roosevelt, and today. You may not be in the market for a new suit, but you don't know what the future may bring. And gold is the one financial constant the world has ever known. It can always provide you with your basic needs. Whether you're looking for junk silver, old silver dollar rolls, gold bullion, or fractional tradable gold pieces, Kettle Moraine is your full-service representative with over 50 years of knowledge and personal experience. Visit FlyingEagleGold.com or call us at 623-327-1778 today for competitive prices on all your gold or silver needs. If you're looking for real financial insurance, call Kettle Moraine today at 623-327-1778. That's Kettle Moraine, 623-327-1778.
Micro Effect. The Micro Effect.
And welcome back, everybody. This is the Whole Agenda Radio Show. I'm your host, Robert Pepino, and you've been listening to the incredible George Green of Global Insights. And we're just getting ready to touch on this last half hour of the show about his book, Handbook for the New Paradigm. And, George, what led you to writing this book to begin with?
Well, what led was basically investigating an extraterrestrial connection. What happened is, when I was in the Air Force, I was assigned at Edwards Air Force Base, which is the Air Force Research and Development Center out at California, out by Palmdale. Anyway, one morning I did the post-flight inspection on the X-15, forerunner of the space shuttle. I finished doing that. There was a couple of hangars that were close to it. Now, the X-15 is nothing more than a rocket on skids, and it lands out on the desert. So anyway, but these hangars were about 5 miles north of the main base where I'd been working on, and I was out there fooling around. So I was curious because I had all my badges on me, all of my clearances, so I cleared for top secret. Anyway, I goes into one of the hangars, and there's a big disc sitting there looking at this round craft. Kind of unusual because it was round. I'd been working on the F-107, for instance, which was a strain, and the B-58, which looks like a huge, a wasp. Get it. Anyway, a lot of equipment that looked different, but this was the round craft. So anyway, I come back in my squadron, and I asked my commander, I said, when can I work on that round craft? And he says, it's a civilian job, an ion-powered craft designed by Sikorsky for use in outer space. And I says, great. When can I work on it? And he says, you can't. It's still a civilian project. Edwards, at that time, there was about 800 airmen on the base and 25,000 civilians. The civilian contractors build the vehicles, and then the Air Force takes them, and then they test, decide whether they want to use them or something. So anyway, that was my experience looking at the craft. Anyway, he just told me the story that it was this craft designed by Sikorsky, and I said, anyway, in the story, he said I couldn't work on it. So I went back to my room, and I happened to be running with the base photographer, my buddy. And I said, get me some pictures of the round craft. And he said, well, what did they tell you? And I gave him, he says, that's not true. He proceeded to show me pictures of the spacecraft. Now, I'm 10 feet away. I know what it looks like. But the pictures he showed me, the two dead aliens, got my attention. Now, they're humanoid, but they were the ones that I saw, the pictures of them, were similar to the ones you see in the movies, you know, with the little rays down in New Mexico.
Right.
Anyway, now I'm really upset because I was prepared for Topsy. Wanted to know why my commander lied to me, and I went down and asked him. And he said, look, when the government's ready to tell the truth about UFOs and ETs, they will. Till then, you stick to your story. So I just, you know, good guy. I didn't say another word. In 1984, I built a house up in Aspen, and the housekeeper, I had a book called UFO Contact from the Pleiades. Incredible color photographs of exactly what I saw at Edwards. So I grabbed my plane, I flew down to Phoenix, and I talked to this couple who said that they were investigating a man in Switzerland who claimed to be in contact with beings from the star system, the Pleiades, who said, quote, that they engineered this planet for 500 million people. Now, I'm hearing all these things, right? And I said, well, I don't know about your story. And they gave me a lot more details. I said, but I do know your pictures are real. And I said, what can I do to help kids? And so they said, well, what we need is we need some more money to publish a book. And I said, it's not a problem. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll loan you the money to publish your book with this premise. When you sell the books, I want my money back. I'm out building, you know, I'm playing Monopoly. I'm building buildings all over the country, all state, doing what I'm doing. So anyway, it went okay. 90 days later, however, I got their accounting book. They had sold about 3 times the amount of money that I gave to them, and I didn't get my check. So I called them on the phone. I said, where is it? And they said, well, we found out who you are. You don't need it. So I was a little mad. I flew down. I filed suit against them. But during this 90-day period, they had been sharing a lot of documentation with me. It was incredible. So I just, frankly, my wife and I grabbed the next plane, and I flew off to Zurich, Switzerland, to find out for myself. Now, I'm unannounced. So anyway, I rented a car, and about a 45-minute drive out of Zurich is a little town called Schmidt-Rudy. And I'm going up, knocking on the door to this guy. His name's Billy Meyer. Knocked on the door, and a young lady answered the door. And I said, I'm George Green. I put the money up for publishing your books, and I put money into a movie being made about your story over here. And I says, I'm here because I think information should be given to the world. Somebody has to know. And they said, well, we're not talking to America because they're all crooks. And I said, well, I can kind of understanding that. I said, but you go back and you tell Billy who I am. I said, the buck stops here. Anyway, she came back 10 minutes later, said, Mr. Green, I'm sorry. Shirley MacLaine was here a couple months ago, and she promised to help get the information out, but nothing has happened. I said, well, I guess it's late in the afternoon, and I can't think to do about it. I said, I'm just going to make a vacation out of this, so tell me where the closest hotel is. So they did. We went in and checked in the hotel. Next morning, knocking on the door was this young lady, Bruni, with a 2-page message, which was authored by Quetzal, who happened to be the extraterrestrial commander, Pleiadian commander of the craft that was in contact with Billy. And we were invited back into their compound for the next week. And in fact, I got my mind blown. Everything I thought I knew was a lie. In fact, the whole planet, seems like. Anyway, I ended up making a deal with the extraterrestrials to assist in getting the information out. They've been down. They've contacted with our governments and everything else. There isn't a question of anything out. And they're in the sky all the time. A lot of different extraterrestrials here, a lot of people see, and they report everything. But they don't want to interfere because within the framework of the universe, if you go in and take something on for somebody else, it's the law of attraction. What you put out, you're going to get back. So what they have figured out, that they can give information to people to awaken them so they can start going out on the world or do something. But if they do it for them, as they said, then you treat us like God. You know, they either deify or they crucify the messengers. That's what they say. So anyway, I ended up making an agreement with Billy and the EPs to publish the material. I said, but I have a problem. I said, the guy down in Phoenix, I said, who I'm suing right now claims to have the worldwide rights to this story. So I said, no problem. I said, I tell you what I'll do. I'll fly to L.A., and I had a house out there at that time in Beverly Hills. I said, my attorneys out there are the attorneys for the Screen Actors Guild. And I said, yeah, we'll get the contract all cleared up, and I'll go ahead and go with my agreement. I realize I'm playing 2 games now. I'm playing with a physical guy down here and as well as extraterrestrials that are off planet. So I said, I got a real game hand. anyway, when I flew back to L.A. with the information and gave it to Dern Mason and Farms, the attorney's office, and I gave it to Dern, and he looked like I'm crazy anyway, because I made a deal with ETs, right? But I, like,
right.
Well, he did. And I was sitting there laughing, and he says, my money's good, you don't really care. He says, I'll take care of it. Anyway, about, I guess it was 4 or 5 weeks later, calls me on the phone, he said, get down there, we got it taken care of. He had already talking to a judge, and what he wanted me to do is have Billy come over, in front of the judge, and we'd have a hearing on the matter, that in order so I could have the court make the disposition on this agreement. So I, from his office, we called Billy, and I told him, I said, I'll send you a ticket so you can come on over here and appear court. Well, while I was there with Billy, he was taken forward in time and was allowed to take pictures of a lot of things here on the planet, including the total destruction of San Francisco. And I got to look at him. This is all from an upcoming earthquake that's going to occur. Now, we didn't have the timing on it. Like when I talked to Billy, he says, I'm not coming over there. I got 3 kids and I'm safe here. And I said, I understand. I said, we're going to have to find out a little bit more about this. Anyway, I know that we're coming up to a sequence. I keep watching that because I verified this with the Geological Survey people in Sacramento, and I went to FEMA to look at it. They're getting ready for the San Andreas to move at least 18 feet, which is confirmed
18 feet?
Yeah, it'll totally destroy Southern California. And I talked to the FEMA head, the second in command down in Phoenix, and he said, we're prepared for this. We're going to do this. We cannot take all the people out of California. We can probably take up to 100,000 people, and that's what he told me. And he said, we're going to set we'll stop the borders, and we're going to set up tent cities on there because there's no way we can take care of people running out because that's going to be all underwater and gone. I mean, they were talking about that total destruction. Anyway, I said, okay. So anyway, I'm sitting with Billy when I get through with with my attorney, with Dern, and he said, I don't know what we're going to do now. And I said, well, I don't know either. We're going to have to let the extraterrestrials find another way for me to do this. So when we left, I had a little 450 SL convertible out there, a little Mercedes. Anyway, we got out. We're going down right by the airport. And I'll be damned, right broad daylight, they had one of their beam ships, the same thing that was over in Switzerland, followed us for about a half an hour right on the highway. Way at the top down, we're sitting out here pointing and looking at this, round craft. I mean, it was a strange deal. And they were doing that for 2 reasons. Number one, to remind me that what was happening was real. At this point, I was living a real-life X-File. It's really strange because, before that I thought in the real world of monopoly and, the government and all that, I could understand this, but all of a sudden I'm involved with extraterrestrials. Anyway, a lot of details. I know the timing of that we have. Went on during the period of time that was on, and I got involved. Anyway, 10 years ago, the EPs contacted me again. I was building down in Las Vegas, and they said, you're running out of time. And he said, and they made an agreement. I made an agreement setting with them. And I said, well, we'll put the information out, or I'll publish the information out. And they said, we'll give it to you, but we can't transmit it in Las Vegas. You're going to have to go to another place because the energy is so negative down there in Vegas that whatever they make sure they got a clear channel, so to speak. So anyway, I gave them some places where I could go, and they confirmed. I ended up being another place. And so for the next year, basically got the information from the ETs on what's coming down and how to wake people up to who and what they are, where we came from, because man did not originate on this planet. We didn't come out of the, it didn't work like what people think. We had evolution on the planet, and it does go through that. But each of the different races come from different star systems, and we're kind of the Australia or the outback of the universe. You remember when they took the prisoners from England and France and sent them down to Australia?
Absolutely.
Well, that's exactly what happened to planet Earth. We were engineered at other places to act as warriors. Within the rule, let me give you one of the problems that we have. Within the so-called biblical teachings where it says, thou shalt not kill, the real one's, thou shalt not murder thy fellow man in thought or deed. Because what you put out, you're going to get back, right? Well, the extraterrestrials on other planets have said, now, wait a minute, if we do something like kill somebody, now, not that you can't defend yourself, because you got to defend yourself, or that's suicide if you don't, or or self-murder, and that's against the law. So they're the wise guys up there in the other planets decided to re-engineer evolutionary lower life forms, basically, or humanoids that had not the intelligence, gave them intelligence, gave them limited life, and taught them how to be warriors. It's within our DNA. And so we would go out and do the wars fighting for them, because within the universe you got good guys and bad guys. That's how the universe works. It's got the positive and negative, but it always has to come back in balance. That's the same thing that's happening on planet Earth. We've had all kinds of positive and negative that's going on the planet, but it has to come back in balance. And how's it going to do it? The planet itself is going to get rid of all the things that's causing the negativity. The ETs were hoping that we would wake up, and that's the secret of the handbook. It will awaken those people that need to be part of the ground crew to have a new change on the planet. Now, I mentioned this because the problem is we all know, you and I and the people that are listening to the radio program, know what doesn't work, which is almost everything. Isn't that right?
Absolutely.
So we're going to need all the help we can get. Well, what happens by reading these books, they kind of reprogram your thoughts so you can be in direct communication with however you view God. The ETs may come to talk to you personally. I don't know. I can't follow that up. All I know is that I'm putting out thousands of these books, and they're going around the world, and they're being translated in lots of different languages, and there are groups forming all over with the knowledge that's given in these things, because this is the only solution, frankly. I don't see any other solution. I mean, I look every day for things. You can do it on a day-to-day basis, but they've given us a solution to do it.
I wanted to ask you a question. Do you think, just out of curiosity, they made that movie 2012. Do you think that was taken directly from your ideas? Because I know you said that you wanted to turn Billy Meyer's a story into a movie. Do you think some part of that was directly taken from your experiences and what you were going to do in regards to making a film?
I don't know. Frankly, I didn't look at the 2012 movie. Now, the movies that Billy put out were primarily the ones that he was trying to get information out, and he had lots of pictures to show. And I show the same pictures, and I've got a lot of other ones that I took when I was over there with him too. But the movie that he put out, and I have them in my catalog, the Beam Ship stuff. All it does is show his story and give you where he was at. Now, Billy's he's really mad at me right now because Billy and a Greek priest were taken by the Palladians, Plagiarians, whatever you want to call them. They're almost the same time frame we are, the universe. But anyway, they took him to a tomb where in a big jar wrapped in resin was the original writings of Judas Iscariot. Now, Judas Iscariot was the scribe to Christ. He wasn't a betrayer. That was Judah Iscariot. But when they translate, they always have little problems. Anyway, I'm reading the documents over there, and I said, oh, wow, we need to get this out to the world, because it gives you a little bit of better history of the man we call Jesus. His real name was Emmanuel. That's in all the books. Anyway, what happened is when we got to the States, now Billy said, you can go ahead and translate it, but I want you to translate it in the German. Now, remember, the Greek priest translated it. Now, the Greek priest, his religion, is Orthodox Greek. At that point, when he translated the stuff, he didn't want to, follow over the line. So he put a lot of stuff in the thing or translated it the way that the church would teach him. Well, we had the book translated. It was in Schweizerdeutsche or High German. We had a college kid over there translate it to English. Then from the English, I brought it over here to some of my biblical scholars, and one of them, Dr. Jim Dierdorf, professor at the University of Oregon, he says, I'll take the document. Anyway, he worked with us for a couple of years on that translation, and he spent 20-some years proving the documents, and it's the real book of Matthew. Your listeners can go to research. That's what it is. That's the thing. And it gives you everything, by line, to give you the comparisons between the Bible, and he proved it to the book. And it's like 500 pages of stuff, and to show you how the translations occurred. Anyway, Billy got mad because I wouldn't print the German in it. He had to have his with German on one side and the English on the other. But even those translations, I changed again because some of the terminology and the words didn't exist. For instance, a lot of people think that Jesus was a Jew, right? That's what they tell you. Well, the word Jew didn't even occur in the English language until the 18th century. First appeared in an English play by Sheridan, year 1775. So when they did the translations, it was wrong. Jesus was born in Judea, so he was a Judean, and his name was Emmanuel. And the name Jesus was a nickname given to him by Saul of Tarsus, who changed his name to Paul, who was responsible for most of the New Testament. So, we have a whole game. So I started getting through all these things, and so I said, well, wait a minute, if we're going to bring it up to date when you're doing a translation, we'll let the people figure it out for themselves. Well, meanwhile, the ETs that I'm involved with says we're past all that point because religion is basically an opiate of the masses. They say above all things is the creation. And I'm talking to the ETs now. I said, well, okay, I understand that. Well, what's above the creation? And their answer back to me was, well, there's still mysteries for us. So I thought it was, because the universe is expanding because we're all a product. John 1 says, in the beginning there was the Word. Remember that? That whole paragraph, and the Word was. Well, you have to change the word itself to, in the beginning it was thought, because words are just thought out loud. And when you pray, you put out thought. When you meditate, you're hoping to receive thought. Well, the meditation process, we no longer can function particularly. It's really hard to do that because the pineal gland was the receptor of the information coming from the creation level or how you ever view God. Well, since we put fluoride in the system, on the physical world, we've dumbed it down. So most people don't, they're lost no matter which way they go. So they, even Emmanuel says, look, what I do, you can do and greater. And what you sow, you shall reap. So the myth of his, dying on the cross to save mankind, that was a myth. That never happened. I mean, today his tomb is actually in Srinagar, India, because he did go get crucified, but he didn't die. He basically went into a shock. Now, Dr. Walter,
I heard the same exact thing, George.
Dr. Walter Moyer was a friend of mine. He helped dig up the Dead Sea Scrolls, and he's the one that gave me all the background. He told me that it was, a hoax perpetuated, so people don't take on responsibility. Again, we're back to the same game. Anyway, the handbook, I ended up publishing the handbook. They're all over the planet. It's being translated into many different languages. Guys just sent me some. I got copies of it in German now. I think we put up the handbook in German on our site, and you can download those for free. So that's it's to get people to awaken. I'm trying to get everybody awakened so they can be in contact, so they don't have to listen to you or me. They can be in direct contact. Well, seriously.
I know,
getting to a point
George,
now.
I absolutely agree with you. I absolutely agree because that's what we're doing. That's our jobs. I mean, I took it upon myself as well as you started doing this many moons ago, and that's why I said I need to step up to the plate and help in any way I can.
Well, and that's what I'm doing, and yet people want to see or taste or something, so I'm out still, in groups doing meetings. I mean, I just did a meeting over in London, and I was up running around Europe over there trying to do things. People want me to go over to Germany, but it's getting really difficult to get over to these places because these people are really scared of what's going on over there right now. I mean, I was right in London when all the riots were going on.
I know. Hey, George, we only got a couple minutes left. Real quick, where are you going to be? Because you said you were getting ready to leave and go do some more lectures. And how can people get a hold of your book and your website?
Well, just go to nohoax.com, HOAX.com, or just Google my name, George Green, and it'll go to it'll automatically get you back down on my website. I'll be putting my radio programs up there right now. You go to my website, it'll tell you where I'm going to be, or you can email me. I'd be glad to get as much information to you. If you want to know anything, the information is on the website. My email address and everything's up there. So you can do that. That's the best way because I travel a lot right now.
I know. And George, I'd love to have you back on this program as time will allow that. I know things are ramping up right now very quickly, and hopefully we get you back on this program before anything too traumatic happens.
It's happening real quick. It may happen in the next couple weeks, buddy. Just watch it.
All right. Well, George, I want to thank you again. You take care of yourself. Be safe wherever you're going to be, and I'll get in touch with you.
Thank you, sir. Bye.
Thank you. Take care of yourself. Bye-bye. And everybody, this has been the Whole Agenda Radio Show. I'm your host, Robert Patino. We'll see you tomorrow evening, and tomorrow night we have Rebecca Jernigan. You won't want to miss it. Everyone, take care. Have yourself a wonderful evening. Bye-bye.
Regardless of the dollar price involved, 1 ounce of gold would purchase a good quality man's suit at the conclusion of the Revolutionary War, the Civil War, the presidency of Franklin Roosevelt, and today. You may not be in the market for a new suit, but you don't know what the future may bring. And gold is the one financial constant the world has ever known. It can always provide you with your basic needs. Whether you're looking for junk silver, old silver dollar rolls, gold bullion, or fractional tradable gold pieces, Kettle Moraine is your full-service representative with over 50 years of knowledge and personal experience. Visit FlyingEagleGold.com or call us at 623-327-1778 today for competitive prices on all your gold or silver needs. If you're looking for real financial insurance, call Kettle Moraine today at 623-327-1778. That's Kettle Moraine, 623-327-1778.
I'm Ronnie McMullen, spokesman for Life Change Tea. I want to share my enthusiasm for Life Change Tea because this product really works. I have spent many hours listening to hundreds of testimonies from people like you having their health be transformed because of this amazing product. When your mind makes the decision for a health change, Life Change Tea will help you to achieve your health goal. Reduce your weight, diminish bad bacteria, receive more energy, cleanse your skin, eliminate toxins, give health and energy to your vital organs. If you want to make a change in your health plan, call now. Call right now, 928-308-0408. Again, 928-308-0408. Or you can log on to the website at getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. Make up your mind and choose the right path. That's getthetea.com.
Survival of the fittest. In any and all situations, survival is your number one priority. That requires being tough and thinking smart. And the folks at Freeze Dry Guy are going to help you do just that. They have a long-range patrol ration entrees, what they call the Brick Pack. When you're in survival mode, it is absolutely the best item for your survival pack or bug-out bag. You can go farther, faster, and carry more food with the LRP cold weather ration entrees. Not only do these long-lasting, durable entrees help sustain you or your family through the harshest environment or situation, they are by far the most delicious of their kind. No contest. With a variety of tasty entrees, you can't beat the LRP Brick Packs. Let Freeze Dry Guy help you in your survival situations. Go to freezedryguy.com. That's freezedryguy.com. Or call 866-404-3663. That's 866-404-FOOD.
The Micro Effect.